Hello and welcome to another 369 degrees video, and today we will be going over how to make a good Clash Royale deck for any battle mode. As you probably know, a deck contains 8 cards unless you're playing the Mega Deck mode, in which you choose 18 cards of your choice. You take your deck into battle and use the cards in your deck to attack and defend. I went through decks and cards in more detail in my tour of Clash Royale video. But enough of talking about deck basics. Let's go into more depth with how to make a decent one. So let's start with a ladder and tournament deck, because you will use this deck the most, and despite its name, for more modes than just ladder and tournaments. I like to give each of the 8 cards a number, like so. Hold on a minute. I'm going to put random cards in this deck so we can make it good together. Sorry. Just like that. Okay. So look at card 1. The top leftmost one. This is your win condition. Of course, Heal Spirit isn't a win condition. I'm just now, but that's why we'll be replacing Heal Spirit with a good one. So a win condition is a card solely made for destroying towers. Examples include Wall Breakers, Goblin Barrel, Hog Rider, Graveyard, Balloon, Royal Giant, and Golem. In my opinion, you want a powerful win condition that can take out at least half of a tower's health if left ignored, but aren't too expensive. I'd say aim for 4 to 6 Elixir. Of course, this isn't a rule. Pick a card that suits your playing style. You also might want to consider using a win condition that only attacks buildings, so it won't get distracted by other troops. So it'll make a beeline straight for the tower, assuming there aren't any other buildings in its way. Let's do Hog Rider. Okay, so cards 2 and 4, or at least cards 2 and 3, should be what I call hybrids. Hybrids aren't meant for one specific purpose. They do well attacking, defending, and supporting. Examples include Goblin Gang, Mini P.E.K.K.A, Dark Prince, Sparky, and Mega Knight. Let's use Mega Knight. And we need some more hybrids, so maybe I'll go 5 Elixir. Where's the cannon card? Yep, there we go. Let's have one more. How about Knight? Okay. So now card 5, or both cards 4 and 5 if you only use 2 hybrids, is /R Swarms. I define a swarm as a card that spawns at least 3 troops, like minions or barbarians, that has a decent DPS, or damage per second. At least one of them should be 3 Elixir or less. Examples of swarms include goblins, skeleton army, minion horde, and royal recruits. I like skeleton army. So card 6 is your non-swarm defensive card. This is a card meant for defense only, but isn't a swarm. Examples include Royal Delivery, Ice Wizard, Valkyrie, Inferno Tower, and Witch. Oops, sorry. What do you think I should pick? Valkyrie? How about... let's go with an Executioner. Okay, cards 7 and 8 are spells. It's advisable to use one small one, or one that does low damage, and a big one, or one that does high damage. And what I mean by spells, I don't mean like all spells, like stuff like Goblin Barrel, stuff like Graveyard, other spawners, things that spawn troops. I don't count those as spells. I'm talking about things that are guaranteed to do damage if played correctly. Like, Goblin Barrel is not guaranteed to do damage, but Poison is. And I would also suggest that at least one of those two cards is one that can hit the Crown Tower if played correctly. Like, Barbarian Barrel wouldn't be in this category. The Log would. And speaking of the log, make sure you now place it on the topmost row of tiles. Because you can't place it on the back row of tile, on the second to whatever, you know what I mean. Just like it got nerfed, so its range is worse now, so you have to put it on the top row of tiles. So let's pick some spells. So small ones, as I was saying, include Zap, Giant, Snowball, and the Log. Big ones include Arrows, Fireball, and Rocket. Again, this isn't a rule. Pick spells that fit with your deck and match your playing style. For example, my Ladder and Tournament deck uses 2 small spells because Freeze fits in my deck. Some people would use stuff like Giant Snowball, Fireball, but for me, Freeze really fits in my deck, so that's why I use 2 small spells. So let's pick our spells. A nice Zap. Let's go with a big one. Fireball should work. Okay. Now that we've got our cards, it's time to fit our cards together. It's like you've got the puzzle pieces and you just need to orient them correctly to complete the picture. You need to make it so that every card, or almost every card, is supported by the other cards. For example, if my win condition were weak to high damaging units, then my hybrids, remember hybrids can also be used for support, wouldn't also be used to high damaging units. So let's see. Hog Rider, weak to swarms and high damaging units. I can't do much about things that are tanks and deal high damage, like Sparky and Pekka. I can't do much about those, but I can do something about swarms. So we do actually have a Zap in our deck, so that should be able to take care of most weaker swarms. But if they do play something like a Minion Horde, I've always got that Fireball ready. So this actually is pretty good. So when you're fitting your deck together, you also want to consider your average elixir cost. The average elixir cost, you can see it as it's 4.1 right now. It's below this bottom row of cards right there. Right here. It's on the top of your screen right now. So you ideally want this number to be between 3.6 to 4.0. If it's too high like mine is right now, then you need to change some of these cards to lower elixir stuff. If it's too low, like it's 3.0 something, you need to add more, you need to add some more expensive troops. Of course, once again, this isn't a rule. So if your deck's average elixir cost is too low, then you're going to have a breeze defending stuff, but you're going to have a really hard time attacking, so that's bad. If it's too high, then you're going to have then you're going to be good attacking. Your attacks are going to be solid, they're going to be good, but you're going to have a lot of trouble defending. So I think we can take out this Executioner. We can probably get some better defensive card. What's a nice defensive card? Dark Goblin. Could probably do that. So now it's 3.9. The deck looks like it's fitted pretty well. So I think we can move on. So you can test this deck out, make sure that it's okay in some battles. So if you want to test that out, if you don't want to risk losing trophies, you can always click this little pop-up menu and play a training camp battle. Of course, this is an AI battle, so it might not be as good as a real player, but it does give you an idea of how your deck synergizes, how it works. So play around with your decks, see what combinations work, which ones are massive fails. However, don't just play one battle and say, that, insert a combination. Combination was, insert an adjective. Play at least 3 battles before deciding. And finally, before we move on to other modes, here is the most important tip. Your deck should be constantly changing. Yes, that's right. Why? The meta is constantly changing. The meta are the popular cards. Popular cards are basically any card with a use rate over 15%. You can check this stuff out on statsroyale.com, and that's spelled statsroyale.com. statsroyale.com. Stats Royale is a really nice website, so check it out sometime. Anyways, your deck should be constantly changing along with the meta. Last month or so, the meta was full of skeleton dragons. Actually, maybe it was a bit more than a month, maybe like a month and a half, something like that. Now their use rate is far below the average of 7%. Almost nobody used Goblin Barrel back in Season 10. Then, in Season 13, it suddenly received a surge of popularity and had this insanely high use rate. It's still pretty high right now, but it's going down. Hog Rider is starting to take over. So, then of course this hasn't happened yet, but maybe then people's decks will be full of Hog Rider counters, and then the Hog Rider users will know not to use Hog Rider anymore because it just constantly gets countered. So then something like, I don't know, maybe Golem will become the most popular win condition. And you see, it just keeps on changing. The popular cards just keep on changing depending on what's going on, how the balance changes are going. So as I was saying, your deck should be changing along with the meta to counter the meta, and maybe even have some cards from the meta right in your deck. So you don't have to change your whole deck every time the meta changes. You can replace cards one by one and always have a deck suiting the current meta. For example, over the past 3.5 months, my deck has changed, one card at a time, 12 times. And each card is better than its previous version. So make tiny changes and you may end up with a deck that has an 80% win rate or something. So enough with ladder decks, we need to move on to 2v2 decks. 2v2 decks basically follow the same ladder layout, except you need stuff with area damage. You can see on your screen an example 2v2 deck that I set up for you guys. So you need stuff with area damage, at least 5 cards. Now I would suggest 6, but at the very, very minimum, 5 cards should have splash damage, because there's going to be a bunch of troops coming in at you because there's 2 players. Even though the Elixir production rate is slowed down, there's still going to be more troops coming at you than you would see in a ladder battle. So yeah, you need stuff with area damage. Also, most players would agree that certain cards work better than others in 2v2. So, a favorite among the pros is Giant Skeleton. In the Clash Royale League 2019 World Finals, the 2v2 matches had giant skeletons all over the arena. It is popular as a defensive card due to his high hit points and massive death bomb damage. Another popular card is Miner, because he can slip past the chaos of the battle untouched. Sparky is also commonly used on defense because of her massive damage and wide 1.8 tile splash radius. You'll also see Tornado in 2v2 Sparky decks a lot. So for other battle modes, your deck should still follow that general format, except the cards inside of it might be a bit different. For example, if you're playing triple Elixir, your deck's average Elixir cost might lean on the heavier side. If you're playing Lumberjack Rage, you would use Lumberjack counters and things that work well on Rage. But all decks are built, give or take, around that general format. If you follow that format and practice a bit with it, you will do well. So if you forgot the general format, you can go back to the time on your screen right now. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Let's take a sneak peek at next week's video. See you guys next week.